Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?
Well, hello again, everybody. This is Rob Godlewski with the Think Small podcast. And today our guest is Kevin Lowrie. Kevin is the franchise owner in New Mexico for a business called Class 101. Kevin, great to have you with our podcast audience today.
Thank you for having me, Rob. I appreciate being here.
Absolutely. So this is a really interesting franchise business. So tell me about Class 101 and then tell me about your journey and how you got here. And tell me about, some of the cool things you're doing with this business.
Very cool. Thank you. So Class 101 is the oldest college planning company in America. We've been around for 28 years. It started in Lexington, Kentucky with a guy named Tom Haben, who was actually a youth minister. And one of the parents in his organization came to him and was like, "My daughter only listens to you. Can you help me get her into college?" And he was like, "I have no idea what that entails, but let's see." So long story short, she ended up getting into college, bringing a handful of her friends while they were kind of preparing, got all of them into college, actually. And the next year, when parents brought up the idea of helping them, he made it clear he still wasn't really sure what he was doing, but he would try. And I believe he got all but one who was college bound. Like they were like, he's definitely going. He's, great student. And he realized that trades were actually what he wanted. I think it was welding that he ended up going into and not going to college.
Mm-hmm.
And so at the end of that session or season, Tom decided he should probably create a company around this and do it in a little more structured format. And so a couple years later, the franchise owner in Ohio saw him speak down in Kentucky and talked him into franchising. And that was when things really got structured, because he was like, "I'm still not quite sure what I'm doing, so I'm not sure how I could help you scale or do something like this." And she was like, "I'm in education and I will totally help you put this framework together." And so that was how Class 101 Roots began. And then I guess it was about 16 or 17 years later in 2020, Tom decided that he didn't really want to be running a large corporation or franchise like that. He really wanted to focus on, his local territory and his students and his church and so on. And so a company named Unleashed Brands, which also owns Sylvan and Little Gem, Snapology, Urban Air, a handful of other companies, and the franchisor's goal, Unleashed goal or mission is, helping students and families from diaper to diploma. And so Class 101 kind of rounded out the end of that to diploma. I actually was a life coach and an IT consultant since way back in the last millennium, actually. I guess my first consulting company was 96, 97 is when I kind of started consulting. I was telecom and data centers, helping do a lot of security stuff. And as I was doing IT consulting, I ran into a large healthcare organization that asked me to be a fractional chief security officer for 1 year and fire the CTO and all the technology department and rehire them. And I was like, as I stepped back and really started thinking about that project, I realized it wasn't technology, it was communication. And so I went and got my life coaching certification and started that. And I did that in 2008, my first life coaching certification. I've got about 4 now. And did that up until 2020 as well. As COVID hit and everybody was going home and things were getting really locked down, I called up my largest client, which happened to be the Department of Energy, and said, "That job you've been offering me for like 5 years, does it come on base with a office secluded from all these people?" And it did. And so I took it right at the beginning of COVID to get out of my house for a little bit. And amazing tech job. But what I realized in that journey was that my passion was coaching. And that I really coaching more than the technology. And so I wasn't quite sure what I was going to do. But also over COVID, I ended up getting a divorce and getting 50% custody of my kids. And so in 23, my intention turned around to be, let's raise good adults. And so I always tell people, be careful of what you wish for or pray for, because then you start getting all the opportunities to do it. Because I was, of course, thinking about my own kids and not everybody else's necessarily, but then I put my resume up on LinkedIn. Class 101 reached out to me, and next thing you know, going through the franchise vetting process and making sure that they could really be a good supply chain. And I really appreciated the family connection. And one of the things that really drew me to Class 101 was when I was an IT consultant and a life coach on my own, if I had a really challenging problem, I had to figure it out on my own. And Class 101, we're in 30 different states. We've got more than 200 other advisors. And my thought was, I'll be able to reach out to peers who've, probably run into a similar situation. And that has actually paid off multiple times during meetings. I'm able to reach out on our internal kind of website, bulletin board, whatever, and ask questions and get 5 to 10 responses in like less than 15, 20 minutes about how they would go about a particular situation. So I'm able to answer questions almost in real time. Like before the meetings were over on those questions that I asked, I had responses back. So close-knit family, really good, and a methodical framework for really preparing young adults on independence in not only adulthood, but as they go off and leave their nest for the first time for 4 years, really preparing them for independence.
Okay, fantastic. So yeah, tell us the real nitty-gritty about what Class 101 offers to families and students of those younger people who are getting ready to make their next journey out of high school and into college.
So we have multiple different workshops. We got SAT workshops and essay workshops. And one of the things that we typically try and start a lot of our students with is a high school prep 101, which is really almost the same life skills that Covey used in the 7 Habits of Highly Successful People, but really more towards jargon and mentality of middle school students embarking on that high school journey, right? Like really, how does your mind work? How do you socialize? What kind of communication habits do you have that are either limiting you or helping you, right? And helping them learn to reflect on what's going on so that they can make adjustments in real time, right? And then really the college planning, maybe late 8th grade, early 9th grade is when we would start. And the biggest thing is developing that college list. Really getting, our goal is to visit 10 colleges, apply to 7. We want 2 safe schools and 5 that kind of make them really reach. But in order to get those 10 before they've even really visited, we've probably gone through 20 or 30. And we're looking at things like, do you need a big school or a little school? Would you feel comfortable sitting in a lecture hall with 500 to 700 other students and a teacher's assistant giving the lecture? Or would you prefer a smaller classroom style environment like you had through high school, where you've got access to your professor every class period, right?
Right.
And, what kind of location? Do you like the mountains? Do you like the beach? Do you like the desert? Do you want big city, little city, urban area, rural town, etc.? Helping them really evaluate what type of environment when I leave my parents' house is going to help me be most successful to becoming, a good adult. And so back to my intention whenever I left Sandia National Labs was that I need to raise good adults. And so that really resonated and lined up well with me. And when they reached out, I was like, I've not been in academia. I'm not sure. And they were like, it's your life coaching. Your life coaching background, it makes you perfect for this scenario. And so we're not tutors, but we do academic advising. Part of that, looking at that college list, is identifying the rigor and the type of character that those colleges are looking for their applicants to be competitive, and then helping those students identify activities and extracurricular that they can go experience and explore that type of character type to see if that really would be their right fit. And so helping them do class schedules, helping them identify volunteering and leadership activities, building that resume. And one of the things that I often say to my students is, I get asked a lot by parents, why would my student need a resume? They haven't worked, they're not doing anything professional. And we have an academic template for our resume. It's more about GPA and SAT and what type of extracurriculars and volunteer work.
Sure.
But I tell my students, good resumes have good experiences on them, and they demonstrate growth over a period of time. And those good experiences turn into the good essays, which is what every admission officer really wants. Because yes, the GPA and the SAT score or ACT score, kind of gets you through the door, sort of like your degree does into that job interview, right? It opens those opportunities that you wouldn't get if you didn't have those scores. But what really sets you apart and makes that determination of whether you get accepted or not is that personal essay and what it really reveals about your character. And so helping them identify experiences that would make them competitive in those admission officers' viewpoint when they're reviewing thousands of other students as to who wants to really come to this school most, as well as scholarships, right? And scholarships almost always want an essay. What type of student are we going to fund? And merit-based scholarships are also college specific, right? And so that's another thing that we evaluate when we're looking at that college list. So back to one of the most important things of our program is really helping them identify a college list that is the best college fit for their family. Budget, every school costs a little different and has different requirements. And so helping that family budget along that. And then junior year, we do 2 either SAT or ACT prep classes to really help them move that. Why? Because although admissions might be test optional to a lot of schools, and that of course happened around COVID before almost every school had a minimum SAT before they would even look at you, whereas admissions went test optional because a lot of kids couldn't go take the SAT that way. However, scholarships didn't change. Scholarships still wanted to know what sort of student are we funding. And although it's not an intelligence test, it demonstrates a student's ability to manage under pressure, a core curricula, and make sure they've really got an idea of the fundamentals. And so every 10 points on the SAT and every point on the ACT is worth thousands of dollars in scholarship funds, depending on the institution that we're looking at. Once we get into the summer before the senior year, Common App, which is how a lot of students apply to college nowadays, opens up August 1st. Here in New Mexico, school doesn't start until the middle of August. And so we've got 2 weeks before they get their senior workload. And my goal is to have the entire application process as complete as possible before they get that senior workload. Then they don't have to think about it. They can really enjoy their senior year without all of the worry about what am I going to do next year? Oh my gosh, my adult life is really coming. It's and helping them identify that it's not a finish line. Just because you've applied, we're still waiting on acceptance letters. And so that summer we do an essay writing workshop, and the goal is to come up with 8 to 10 good quality essays. We call them kind of the meat and potatoes of your character and your story as you went through your high school journey. And we want those essays to have a wide variety of topics so that they can apply to the different prompts. And we do find the different prompts for the schools on that list, as well as the prompts at the Common App, to help them kind of prepare and get ready. When the Common App opens on August 1st, then they're able to say, oh, this matches, this essay matches that prompt perfectly. That essay matches that prompt perfectly. And they can change the header, the first couple of sentences and the last couple of sentences to really make it unique and specific to that scholarship or college And then the rest of it's cut and paste. They don't have to spend 2 weeks or 3 weeks thinking, with my rough draft and all of these edits and really trying to come up with a 500 or 600 word essay about who they are. They've already got it done before all of that even starts. And then, of course, with applying to 7 or 8 or even 10 schools, each one's got its own application deadlines, right? And so helping them make sure that they don't miss any of those deadlines and helping them realize that college is not like high school. You can't say my dog ate it. Can I turn it in tomorrow? Because they've got 5,000 other students that are also applying. So those deadlines really matter. And if you miss it, then you miss that opportunity for you. And so once we get all the applications submitted, then we start exploring different scholarship opportunities that are outside of that institution and getting ready for that, helping them create strategies, applying for the FAFSA, really pursuing all the different financial aid options that go. And then whenever they finally commit to a college, the second semester of their senior year is mostly transitioning to college. Things like scheduling the orientation, helping them figure out which student groups and organizations that they want to land in so that they can feel supported when they get there and not, spiral down. Where's the health office? Go meet the counselor while it's still nostalgic and you're excited about college before you start falling into that feeling lonely and overwhelmed stage that is about the time, typically that the professor gives that big project for the first time, right?
Right.
So really helping them. And the ROI on our program, it's training. I analogize it a lot like if you really wanted athletic scholarships, would you hope the PE teacher had enough resources or would you go get a personal trainer? And so we get to be that on an academic level. And from an academic scholarship perspective, our numbers are, last year in 25, we had 1,980 some odd seniors in the pipeline. And on average, we got $212,000 per student in merit-based scholarships. So it's not
212,000 per student?
Per student was what we averaged. We actually ended up with over 4 million total in merit-based scholarships. And when you average that out between the 1,900 students, it was like 212,000 and some change that average. And of course, some of them got 50 or 60 or 70,000, and some of them got $500,000. Or we actually had 5 merit-based National Merit Scholarship winners last year out of those 1,900 as well. And so that $1 million, helped with it, but it was still a significant number, not insignificant at all.
Okay. So if I may, you're really focusing on, your focus is on the student and the student's family rather than what is the normal process is what I went through when my son was getting into college, was focused on the university.
Right.
And you could have more than a 4-year relationship with the student and their family. It's if you're starting in middle school for your high school 101 class, it's a 5+ year relationship, right?
Absolutely. So yes, really getting to know them, really coaching them. And when I purchased this franchise, I really thought I would maybe 5-10% with the parents, mostly in the sales, chasing them down if they're not paying. That hasn't been the case at all. I probably spend, I'd say 30 to 40% of my time coaching parents on the evolution of the support of their child. So many moms wait until their senior year to realize that, their 18-year-old 6-foot senior who's now outgrown them, they still see them as the baby of the family, right?
Of course.
And they'll always be their baby. However, if you enable them like that baby and you coddle them and you do all their laundry and you do all their shopping and they never learn to budget, then when they get out to college on their own, they often feel abandoned and lost, right? And what am I going to do? And so helping those parents really evolve their support from, manager and constantly handling their travel and their calendar to empowering that student to really manage their own calendar and schedule, talk to the teachers and instructors about their grade on their own, and then falling back to the parents. Why? Because it's a safe place to learn those experiences without feeling failure, without having big catastrophic losses because you made a poor decision in college because you didn't know better while you were learning in high school. And so really helping parents provide effective support to their high school students is a big part of what we do in this planning process.
So with an average of, like you said, over $200,000 of scholarships gifted to your students, clearly the return on investment is massive. But can you share with our podcast audience, what is that average investment of a family, investing time with you for that 5-year period?
And so there is kind of an hourly sort of schedule around it. Typically 8th and 9th graders, you want to meet once every 8 weeks or so, once every 2 months ish. Sophomores, we start ramping it up every 6 weeks. They don't really need to think about college every day or all the time, but it needs to be on the radar.
Sure.
It needs to be kind of a thought in between what are we planning for the next couple of months, right? And are we doing anything to really move forward with it? Excuse me. Juniors, once every month. I mean, it's crunch time. We're looking to really refine, figure out the leadership stuff. We do 2 SAT prep courses during our junior year. So juniors is really when, the crunch time begins. That's when we really start focusing on them. Senior year, the first semester is pretty much, I have a couple that I meet almost weekly that we're going over resume or going over essays, going over applications, making sure everybody's got transcripts. The official is every 2 weeks. And then the second semester of the senior year depends on how much hand-holding they need. I got one senior who I, on a phone call for like 30 minutes every 2 months. They just don't need it. I got another senior who she's never been out of the state. She just got accepted at KU and is, petrified about moving out. And so I probably spend an hour to an hour and a half with her, sometimes weekly, sometimes every other week. So it depends. It's, very making sure that family feels supported every step of the way is what we're really all about.
Yeah. Well, again, with that $200,000 of average scholarship money, that's really incredible. And I understand that there's
back to your initial question on
that go into that average. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry, Kevin.
And back to your original question on kind of what kind of investment, it varies depending on where you're at. And so in New Mexico, I start around $4,000 to $6,000 for the whole package, depending on where they're at. And I actually go up. If you start, 9th grade, 10th grade, 4,000 is pretty much what you're looking for. If you're looking at, and I want you not per year, that's over the entire program. I want you paid off by December of your senior year. And so, if you started 9th grade, $1,000 a year, you're talking less than $100 a month as an investment to make all that happen and get all that support. Whereas if you start your junior year, it's closer to 5,000. Depending on how much SAT support you need. If you start your senior year and you don't have anything, you're looking at $6,000. And I want you paid off by December of your senior year. So if you start, and really January, your senior year is too late. Most of the application deadlines are done. We're waiting on acceptance letters. And so I might take a senior on not a full college package, but like scholarship strategies and help with essays or, resume building and really helping identify that college list. And I've even got one senior that I'm working with who they were like, I don't know. And after 2 or 3 meetings, we went to their parents and we were like, what would y'all feel about a gap year with purpose? to really help him experience,
Huh.
the things that he doesn't know. And of course, at first they were like, gap year, we can't do that. He's going to miss out on all these things. And I was like, not necessarily. Because if you go to college without a good, clear direction, you risk, the fate of so many other millions of Americans waking up every day, having to go to a job to pay on a student loans
Right.
that you don't, on a degree you don't even use, and they taught you everything you needed to know when you started that job anyway, right? And so that
Right.
was how I explained it to that particular family was, it's better for him to really go in with a direction and some goals rather than fingers crossed and I hope I figure out what I want to do.
Hmm.
And now he has been shadowing a handful of different vocational, like some electricians, some plumbers, a construction um, foreman, to really review what do I like, what could I see myself doing on a typical Tuesday 15 years from now, right? And would
Hmm.
I be satisfied with that? And so I give them a lot of journal prompts, I give them a lot of reflection ideas, to really help think about life past college and help them realize that it's not a finish line. It's really kindergarten for adulthood, right? Like, it's, uh,
I've never heard that analogy, Kevin. I love that.
but the degree really doesn't tell people that you're ready for the workforce. It tells people that you
Right.
can complete a project, right? And what do professionals really say when, oh, he's got a bachelor's, isn't that cute, right? But with no experience, it's that much more challenging to get a job in that field. And so really helping them explore those fields where it's safe enough to pivot, because also on those merit-based scholarships, if you go in without a plan and you say pivot your sophomore year to your junior year between like pre-med to engineering, if they gave you a bunch of merit scholarships in pre-med, they're kind of reluctant to give you more merit-based scholarships for engineering, because it's you just demonstrated you're not going to finish what you say you did,
That's right.
right? And
I
so
can imagine.
helping them really come up with a goal and a target and a direction before they start, um, helps make sure that they can complete it, right? Gets their buy-in a lot more.
So it's interesting that you are actually, in some probably rare cases, you're actually counseling the parents and the student um, to not go directly into college, even though that's essentially what Class 101 is chartered to do. But I
Essentially, it's
love.
college planning, but yeah, you're right. It's life coaching. It's not really, it's not just college planning, and college isn't for everybody.
Right, absolutely. In fact, I wanted to discuss this with you. You hear a lot about in the news about, what is the employment um what should be the employment choice of the future, and it's not necessarily to get a 4-year college degree. And to your point, not every student is suited correctly for a 4-year college degree, but the trades are becoming so important, so much more infrastructure jobs, coming to the U.S. and and Kevin, they're good jobs.
Right.
So can I ask you, do you also are you connected with some of those, top level trade schools? Are there scholarship monies available for those? Do you interact with those schools at all?
I do. The community
Oh,
college
great.
here in Albuquerque, Central New Mexico Community College, actually has a bunch of great scholarships and
Oh,
um,
fantastic.
works with Sandia National Labs as well as Los Alamos National Labs and creates interns for a lot of those and a lot of technical jobs. Technology, especially with AI and machine learning and cloud computing, is advancing
Mhm.
so fast that if you spent 4 years studying it, by the time you got out, a lot of that would be antiquated and not relevant anymore anyway. Um, so they're taking a lot of certifications over 4-year degrees because it's more relevant to the problems that they're trying to solve right now anyway. And then of course, like, plumbing and electrician and medical tech, things like that
Yeah,
are
HVAC.
Exactly. Completely qualified after, a little bit of shadowing and apprenticeship and a certification, right? Just to
Hmm.
make sure you really understand the fundamentals, but then let them start working. And New Mexico, we, from a community standpoint, we have a low GDP. Like we don't have a population that makes, I mean, I think our average salary in New Mexico is around 40 to 50,000, which is below the national average for it. And so having those types of opportunities available for high school students is huge.
And
So yeah,
Class 101 absolutely can work with those students, even though there may not be considering a traditional 4-year college experience.
absolutely. And back to that, it is a return on investment, right? And finding out that you don't need to go get 6 digits in student loans to become a good adult is worth some of that investment
Absolutely.
from the get-go. I mean, I've had parents tell me that that's more priceless than, all of that degree and everything in the whole, I guess, scheme of things.
Yeah. Cost avoidance is just as important as as revenue income, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, to not, because so many students, as well as like financial literacy, like really understanding what those student loans mean and what
Mm,
they entail, and how, whenever they get to college, they're going to get offered a whole bunch of loans. Like, you don't have to take everything that you're offered just because it sounds like free money at the time, which is what gets so many people stuck in having student loans
right.
post.
So Kevin, tell us about, what does the future hold for Class 101? Realizing that you may not have the direction of the whole organization because you're the New Mexico franchise owner, but I'm sure you're pretty connected with the environment there and with your colleagues. What does the next 3 to 5 years look like for Class 101?
So I mean, from a nationwide perspective, we're growing a lot. I think the last system-wide call that we had, they said that they had 7 or 8 new franchisees in the pipeline. And so almost every month we've got a new Class 101 opening up somewhere across the country. In New Mexico in particular, I've been really working with the PED, the Public Education Department. They recently, about the same time that I opened this, adjusted some graduation requirements. We're also ranked nationally at the bottom of the list. Like, we have been number 50 since they started measuring like college
Mm,
readiness on a state
mm.
level. And we used to battle for 49 and 48, but really since 2020, we have, taken over the last position by double digits in all of their kind of metrics that they use. So the PED, about the time that I opened Class 101, started kind of adjusting and thinking, what could we do to improve college readiness? And so some of the
Mm.
high schools in the bigger cities, Rio Rancho, Albuquerque, Santa Fe, some of those high schools actually have college and career readiness counselors, but a lot of districts in New Mexico don't.
Okay.
And so I've been in discussions with this just before the session this year. I started having discussions with a couple of people at the PED about doing remote college and career readiness for some of those districts and for some of those students. And so really helping that. I guess my personal goal is to raise New Mexico up off the bottom of the list. Back to that, careful what you wish for, raising good adults. Next thing you know, I've got a whole lot of other little adults that I'm helping versus just I have a 12 and a 15-year-old. And so they're
Okay.
plenty for me, you think, but now I've got about 75 other students and families that I'm helping. I guess probably about 60 families, a handful. I have siblings that are in with me, but and now I have 2 high schools that are in very underprivileged neighborhoods and communities that could never afford anything like this. And so I actually donate an SAT boot camp to that school, to the 2 of those schools, to help them prepare, and I give them scholarship strategies and things like that. I've been working with the Education Access Foundation, um, which is a nonprofit organization here in New Mexico that really goes around and does financial aid workshops. So I guess for the last 2 years, it's mostly been brand awareness and really helping break into a community that unfortunately doesn't hold education as a high priority. And so most people just glossed over it or thought college planning is just filling out some applications or, checking a couple of boxes off of a list whenever you're a senior. And so changing that frame of reference and mentality has been kind of my goal over the past 2 years, and it's starting to take hold. And so my goal over the next 3 to 5 is to actually work with more institutions, which Class 101 has always been a one-on-one coaching framework. They didn't have any institutional contracts. And so that's been a big discussion with me in corporate to kind of help organize that and see what that's going to look like. And so these first 2 SAT boot camps, I'm just using Blue Book and Khan Academy. I'm not even using any of the Class 101 like proprietary tools, because we've got our own tools that go much deeper in analytics as far as what the student could do to really improve. So I'm taking some of those ideas and then just giving them tools that are free and they would have access to without violating any of the Class 101 franchise.
That's fascinating. Listen, with your background in personal and kind of career coaching, I think you're going to make a huge success out of this. And yes, Kevin, be careful what you wish for, because you just might get it. But I say this in all sincerity, you deserve what you're going to be getting.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's actually been a wonderful journey and not what I expected at all. Like all of the business plan that I initially had about this has definitely been revised a couple of times, and the original was thrown out the window a year ago.
So to kind of set us, or to bring us home, if there's one piece of advice you could give to, let's say, parents and or students in, let's say, middle school or very early high school that are maybe just starting to think about, planning for college, what advice would you give them?
Early engagement. Start exploring as early as possible, because that gives you so much more opportunity to adjust. And I try and analogize it to families kind of like a light. In middle school and freshman and sophomore, think about a floodlight. You want to kind of spread a nice wide distance, but junior and senior year, you want that light to be more like a laser. You want it to be really focused and you want it to be really cutting deep, rather than spreading out. But when the earlier you start, if you wait until your junior year when SAT prep is coming around to start thinking about college, you have missed so many opportunities to really explore what you want. And I have so many juniors coming into me, just adamant on pre-med or adamant on engineering or computer science. And then when I really get them opportunities to shadow or have a mock interview with a current professional in that industry, they come back and they're like, that's not what I want to be doing at all. And so again, the earlier you can really start exploring, the more depth and leadership opportunities you can really demonstrate when you finally start applying to college. And so, my suggestion for middle schoolers and freshman families would be start exploring as early as possible. I know it may seem like it's a far way away, but it's coming really quick. And my advice and I guess suggestion to sophomores, juniors, and seniors is it's not too late. Start exploring now. I mean, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is right now, right? Yeah. But the longer you wait, the less time you have to really explore those opportunities.
I think that's fantastic advice. And honestly, I wish I had knowledge of Class 101 when I was sending, my son to college, 10, 12 years ago. But I'm glad I have knowledge of this now, so I can pass it along when the opportunity arises. Well, folks, this has been a great conversation. This is Kevin Lowrie with Class 101 in New Mexico. Kevin, thank you so much for your time today.
Rob, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate it a lot.
Welcome to the Think Small podcast, hypergrowth for small businesses. So, what's slowing you down?